Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Sunday Talk within the Nine-Sided Circle. I'm your host, Noor Kyle.
And I am her faithful sidekick, Mushtaq Ali.
Yes, and thank you to all of you for joining us, whether you're here live or watching on the replay. We love spending this time with you, and we have new folks with us today, so it's lovely to get to know you. Thank you, thank you. So, without further ado, a bit of a YouTube spiel. Mushtaq, do you want to do that or should I?
I'll do it this time.
All right, go for it.
Hello, everyone. Please consider subscribing to our channel because it makes us happy. Please consider liking this video because that helps to, how should we say, confound the algorithm. And we need to confound the algorithm for a channel that doesn't do a lot of pay to play and that sort of thing. Actually, we don't do any pay to play. It's hard to claw our way up to the top of the algorithm. So your likes and your comments will help us that. So um, think of it as a way to thumb your nose at YouTube and spite the devil by liking us, subscribing to our channel, leaving a comment. And if you like our work and you have a little spare change in these dire times, feel free to make a small donation. As a matter of fact, we are just starting our, what do we call it? Our fund drive.
Yes.
Yeah, because once a year we do this to help pay for all of the things that need to be paid for this channel. And this year we have something special. For anyone who makes a donation, any donation, we will remember you to God. And if you make a donation of $10 or more, you will receive from us a project that I have just completed. It's an abridgment of the Nafahat al-Uns, which has never, to my knowledge, been successfully translated and published into English. It's a small abridgment. The Nafahat, my copy in Farsi is almost 400 pages. What I've done is I've taken the first 9 chapters, which are instructional, and I've translated them, and everything else is biographical. And the biographies are short, but they have a lot of pithy little sayings by various sheikhs and saints and dervishes, and they include biographies of our lineage and things that are important to us.
Yep.
So it's a small abridgment. It will take me several years to finish this thing off if I can live that long. Uh, but for the moment, you can get one of these. And all you have to do is if you send in a donation, say, I want that, or this is a donation. And if it's over $10, we'll send it to you. If it's under $10 and you don't have any more, say so, and we'll send it to you anyway. But don't tell people that because we don't want to seem overly generous.
Have mercy on us. Yes. So, thank you so much, Mushtaq. I'm really looking forward to being able for us to share that with people.
Yeah, and it's just finished, hot off the press.
hmm Yep. So, we'll be going over it together, making sure it's all spruced up, and as soon as we can, we will send it out to you all.
Yep.
Yep.
So save those box tops.
Yes.
And
Keep
yes,
the
we do
receipt.
take green stamps.
How long ago was that?
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, that's
I
what.
was a kid
Yep.
when that was going on. I remember going to the grocery store and they had a machine with a big dial on it, like a phone dial, and they would dial out the amount of money that you spent, and that would just spit out stamps. And then
hmm
you would take them home, put them in books, and then send them in and get stuff that you really didn't need.
Yep. All right.
All right, enough of that.
Shall we get to work?
Let's get to work.
All
What are we
right.
talking about tonight?
Oh, this evening we are talking about the teachers of Gurdjieff.
Now, this
And
is not that book.
yeah,
Yeah.
the Lefort book, right?
Yep.
This is not that
This is not that. That was a joke.
of a sort.
Yeah, it was a practical joke played
Or a
upon the
scheme.
world by certain unscrupulous, unscrupulous
Unscrupulous.
individuals.
Mhm.
But this is not that. We're going to talk tonight about the teachers of Gurdjieff according to Gurdjieff. So what do we have to say about them, Noor?
Well,
Interrupting you because I'm excited.
we have some key figures and key places to discuss. And we'll be doing a little bit of detective work in terms of the the blurred lines in the way that Gurdjieff talks about his history and his upbringing and his development as a, you know, an expert, shall we say, on matters of personal and spiritual development. So we will be touching on that a bit. And we want to start with, first and foremost, his origin story, his family of origin specifically. And so we start with his father. And his father, of course, was quite a figure himself, wasn't he, Mushtaq?
Yeah, by the time he appears in meetings with remarkable men, he's a poor man, an artisan. As I remember in other places that he was talked about, he was at one point rich, and war and strife caused him to lose his sheep, as they say. And so he worked in cars, which was then under Russian domination. Um,
By
and
which we mean the place cars.
yeah,
So Kars.
yes, sorry.
He wasn't he wasn't working at a car dealership. Yeah.
No.
And this
Um,
was like what, back in the 1800s, right?
yeah, turn of the century, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Earlier than that, actually. Probably the 1880s, maybe
Hmm.
1890s.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. A long time ago. So, he was an interesting fellow by all accounts. But the thing that is pivotal to him is he was, according to Gurdjieff, an ashokh. Um, there's various ways to pronounce that word, and Gurdjieff likes the Armenian pronunciation, which is ashokh, but it all means the same thing. It actually comes from the same root as my name, which
Mhm.
is ishk, and an ashik means a lover, but is a term specifically used for um, a troubadour, a storyteller, a minstrel, uh, and they all from Turkey through Central Asia down into Persia, um, somewhat into the subcontinent. They were a big thing. And for instance, Gurdjieff tells the story of his father reciting um, the Epic of Gilgamesh before it was found by Western science. And when it was found and translated, it turned out it was nearly identical to what the old clay tablets were saying the Epic of Gilgamesh was. So the ashogs or ashiks were fundamental in carrying on certain oral traditions that they might not be lost. if you saw the movie Meetings with Remarkable Men, there is that contest at the beginning of the movie where the younger Gurdjieff and his father go to where the ashoghs are competing to see who is going to be the cool guy for that cycle. So Gurdjieff grew up listening to um, all of these stories that would have been traditional songs and tales that would be entertainment for the locals. I mean, they didn't have movie theaters, right? So instead of having a movie theater, you go to some place where an ashik is performing and you listen to the stories. It was probably a lot more fun. So he would have been Gurdjieff's very first teacher. And that tradition is still alive. And we know um, famous ashiks in places like Armenia into the 20th and 21st century, even.
Yes. Yep. Mert says ashik competition still goes on to this day in the Kars area.
Nice.
So this is a living tradition. It's not a dead tradition. Thank you for that, Mert.
So, along with his father, one of Gurdjieff's earliest teachers was known in his book as Dean Borsh. He was the dean of the military academy that Gurdjieff attended as a child. So Dean Borsh had in the book, he talks about how to become a real man, not a parasite.
Mhm.
And this becomes a lifelong thing for Gurdjieff. So we look at Gurdjieff's idea of being a real human being a man without quotes, and it probably starts here.
Yeah. So from his dad, it sounds like he got this creative impulse, this, willingness to work hard and to be committed to a sense of inner freedom, even if external circumstances seem to be limiting. And then from figures as he goes through life, he adapts more and more of you know, their strengths and qualities and those things that inspire him about them.
So Dean Borsch gave Gurdjieff 10 principles, which seem to uh, carry with him for his whole life. And I look at these and I'm ambivalent about some of them, but I will tell you what they are. Number one is belief in receiving punishment for disobedience. Number two is hope of receiving reward only for merit. Number three is love of God, but indifference to saints. Number four is remorse of conscience for the ill treatment of animals. And we've talked about remorse of conscience a few times in the last few weeks. And this is probably where that idea originated for Gurdjieff. At least that's what he attributes it to.
And he had some he showed signs of being an animal lover, didn't
Oh,
he?
yeah, he was. I did not have time to do the proper research on one teacher that Gurdjieff had that we're not going to talk much about tonight, but it was his dog. I will
Yeah.
just say that much.
Oh.
So number 6 was fear of grieving parents and teachers. Number 6, oh, that was number 5. Number 6 is fearlessness towards devils, snakes, and mice. Number 7 is joy in being content merely with what one has. That's a big one. Number 8 is sorrow at the loss of the goodwill of others. Number 9 is patient endurance of pain and hunger. And lastly, number 10 is the striving early to earn one's bread. So this is in some ways from the suggestion of Gurdjieff's own writing, the foundation of his moral philosophy. And we read this and we might have various feelings about it, like punishment for being disobedient. I would object to that because I don't feel that I need to obey any particular authority figure. But that's just me.
I think we tend to attract a lot of those folks.
Yeah.
So, if you have qualms about that, you're in good company.
But I like the idea of love of God, but indifference to saints, especially living saints. So we next have a dude known as Bogachevsky originally, but he becomes Father Evlissi. First met in Kars Cathedral and allegedly leads to an ancient brotherhood near the Dead Sea. Through him, Gurdjieff glimpses ritual music as operative craft, not merely devotion. And he was supposedly the assistant to the abbot of the chief monastery of the Essene Brotherhood near the Dead Sea. Now, I will have to point out at this point that that's probably bullshit. First of all, in the 19th century, we don't know that there were any active Essenes, but if there were, the Essenes were a Jewish sect.
Yeah, they went way back, didn't they, too?
Yeah, they went back into the BCs,
Hmm. Before
and
Jesus's time,
they were
perhaps
an
during.
extremely strict Jewish sect. So if Bogachevsky wasn't Jewish, and since he met him at Kars Cathedral, we're going to assume that's likely. It is not likely that he would be in an Essene monastery, but he might have been in something else. Then we're going to mention Prince Yuri Lobachevsky, played by
Ooh,
Terence Stamp in the movie. Did a great
yeah.
job of it.
Lubavensky.
Yeah,
Yes.
Lubavensky. I'm terrible with Russian names.
There's a lot of syllables in there.
Yeah, yeah, and he was a Russian nobleman who had been searching for the truth for many, many years. Gurdjieff encountered him, and they became, as the book says, essence friends. Uh,
I like that term. What do you think that means?
that means connecting at the level of the true soul of the
Mhm.
essence of the person, not their personality.
Yeah.
And he was big into the theory of vibrations, uh, inquiring about magic, and later on he became part of the monopsyche brotherhood, which we will touch on. So those were like in his young life very important people. Now we get to one of the pivotal individuals, which is the Dervish Bogga-Eddin. Now you hear that name and you go, what? There is no Boga in Arabic. That makes no sense. But you have to realize that Gurdjieff's first language was probably Armenian, and they loved the G, like their favorite letter. And so they stick them anywhere they can. So when we see Bogga-Eddin, what we need to hear is Bahauddin. And since he met him in Bukhara, and since um, Bogga-Eddin uh, arranged a visit to this so-called hidden monastery, but only if Gurdjieff will reveal its location, will not reveal its location, or um,
He makes
basically
him,
keep
yeah,
it secret.
he makes him swear to secrecy, and
Yeah.
only then is he allowed to proceed.
Yeah. Bogga-Eddin also gave him serious advice on breath practice. I don't think I see that anywhere here. Back to my notes.
I do know we discussed that.
Yeah.
Hang in there, folks. It's a lot of things to
Yeah,
remember.
I have pages and pages of notes on this from which I've selected the bits that we're talking about. And if I left something out, I have to go back to the main document and run through it over and over until I find.
There.
Anyway, I don't want to take a bunch of time to do all of that because we got so much more to cover. So the basic upshot was that Gurdjieff asked Bogga-Eddin about these breathing practices that he was doing, and the dervish said, "You should quit because either you have to be in this to change everything, or you want to change nothing. You can't do this haphazard." And it may be why Gurdjieff was reticent to teach breath practice in his own time, because he didn't do much of that. He mentioned it a bit, but and then there's one other dervish that is mentioned, and that is the unnamed elder who issues the invitation to go to the Sarnamun monastery and allowed him to bring along Soloviev if they both kept the oath.
Of secrecy, of course,
Yes.
right? Keep
Yeah.
your mouth shut. Then you can come along. Don't tell anybody.
Yeah. And that gives us an idea of where this so-called Sarmun monastery must have been, because it is described in the book as 22 days travel by um, pack animal, meaning caravan on foot. A caravan moved no quicker than 30 miles a day as a rule. And so if you start at Bukhara and you draw a circle of about 360 to 400 miles around that, this monastery that they were going to had to be somewhere in there. I actually myself think that it was closer to 800 kilometers away and somewhat north, but that's my theory. So along the way, things get interesting. In a Central Asian monastery that respects all men and strives towards the one God, he meets Father Giovanni. And in this group is referred to as the self-freed monks or the self-freed brotherhood, which is an interesting name to me anyway. And their entire thing was to help Gurdjieff make a shift in understanding. The understanding was that knowledge does not equal understanding, and only understanding leads to being. Um,
So it's understanding that is key, not just collecting all kinds of facts and figures and fancy words and even practices, right? If you don't understand, they're useless to you. They mean nothing.
yeah, and it goes to Richard Feynman's comment, quote, that I will misquote a little bit. I will paraphrase, which is you can know the names of all the birds in the world, but until you experience the bird, you know nothing about it.
hmm hmm So this is what we mean by understanding leads to being. Perhaps we can think of that as embodiment of wisdom rather than just inhaling it.
Yep. And so Gurdjieff and Skridlov, who was his traveling companion at the time, stayed in this monastery for 6 months in preparation. Uh, and this is where Gurdjieff hears the story of Brother Al and Brother Says. And this has a profound effect on him because the story is that these two very old brethren, Brother Al and Brother Says, would travel to all of the monasteries, of which there are four. One in Central Asia. Um, we'll get to that in a moment. But they would travel from monastery to monastery, and they would speak on the things that are the essence of divinity. And they said, Brother Says, his descriptions were like the song of the birds of paradise. One becomes as though entranced. But Brother Al speaks badly and indistinctly. The weakness of old age is clearly evident. The thing was that Brother says the impressions that he made evaporate. They disappear. The next day, you can't even remember what he said. But Brother Al's are instilled in the heart and remain there forever. The conclusion is the sermons of Brother Says proceed only from the mind, and those of Brother Al proceeded from being. And the message of this is that knowledge and understanding are quite different, and only understanding can lead to being. So we've mentioned Professor Skridlov, who travels with Gurdjieff from time to time. They travel as wandering dervishes, basically. Uh,
So kind of a travel buddy, right?
yeah,
An older travel buddy.
and one of Skridlov's laments was after hearing that voluntary and involuntary experiencing, which help to develop the soul, are possible almost exclusively in youth. He laments about that because he's no longer a youth.
Mhm.
And it brings us to important questions. What do you do if you run out of energy for uh, transformation?
And that's a
Af-
question that we try to address as
yeah.
often as we can in the work that we do. How to conserve and how to rebuild energy to do the work.
So they leave and they go to a monastery somewhere in Afghanistan, which is known as the Monopsyche Brotherhood, according to this. There is no evidence that anything like this actually ever existed. Um,
So
but
this is kind of another, as we said, bullshit storytelling device, right? But
yeah, to hopefully let us think about something that might be real.
mhm.
Now, according to the account, this monastery was uh, all about music. They talked about demonstrations of law conformable music and tuning by the absolute law, which we all have to think about because none of us are going to necessarily tune an instrument by the law. Think about what that means. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do. So that would be the sixth interval of the octave. But it must be something, and we'll figure it out, or we won't. But anyway, what this suggests to me is that this group probably, given where it was, um, had something to do with the Chishti dervishes.
In like sacred music, sacred
Sacred music,
performance.
yeah.
Yeah.
The Chishtis have been um, understood sacred music for a long, long time.
Hmm.
And though they are better known for being in India and Pakistan, they did get up into Afghanistan as well.
Yeah. So
Or,
this is touching on the idea of objective art,
yeah.
specifically objective music. We've done talks about that previously, but this represents Gurdjieff's incorporating this one way or another encountering and incorporating this idea of there being some kind of creative pursuit, this wisdom conferring art that conforms to certain, I don't know if we want to say divine laws per se, laws of the universe that allow this kind of objective conveyance of wisdom, information, connection, all of those things.
Yeah. And Gurdjieff referred to this again. Uh, he supposedly repeats their method. He found the absolute law according to atmospheric pressure and tuned his piano accordingly.
And again, that's the note la as opposed to what I was just saying about, universal laws, LAW. So,
Yes. And then he touches on the Essene Brotherhood through Father Evlissi again, though this again, according to his story, touches on music. But vocal music rather than instrumental. But it doesn't say much about that. We get back to the self-freed monks and Father Giovanni. That was, figure he spent 6 months there, and it was uh, very important to him. Now, Father Giovanni was an ex-Italian missionary who belongs to the order whose senior adepts are called self-freed. Um,
according to Gurdjieff.
according to Gurdjieff.
Yeah.
And they accept people regardless of nationality, uh, ethnicity, any of that stuff. You basically just have to be a monotheist.
And probably a man, but
Oh,
I don't
yeah, of course, women aren't allowed in these things.
know.
And once Gurdjieff and Skridlov are allowed into this monastery, they're free to go pretty much everywhere except one building where the chief sheikh, and the book refers to him as a sheikh. Um, he lives there, and uh, each evening, those adepts who have attained preliminary liberation are allowed to spend time with him. So Giovanni's backstory is that he was a Catholic priest. He was captured by a Freedi tribesman who enslaved him and later set him free. Um, then he met the adepts of the World Brotherhood of this group and is received into it and remains at their monastery. The monastery is, according to the story, organized four monasteries, one in Pamir, which is in Afghanistan, the one that Gurdjieff is at, which is in Central Asia, one in Tibet, and the fourth in India. And that's the monasteries that Brother Al and Brother Saith circulate around. Now, if you think about that, does that remind you of anything? Anyone?
Kind of what springs to my mind this moment is like the Silk Road, among other things.
The Silk Road?
Yeah.
Anybody else?
What do you think?
You might have to be old to know this. It echoes Madame Blavatsky.
Oh,
Philosophy.
okay. Okay.
And I suspect that Gurdjieff was trying to align this with the theosophical thought so that he could bleed off some of their students, the interesting ones.
Yeah, Todd says he was thinking Journey to the East,
Yep,
which has its ties to the Silk Road, which is, yeah, that's a good connection too. But yeah, this was the same time as Blavatsky and all of her doings and goings on, and that group's success, I'm sure, was something that Gurdjieff had his eye on.
yep. By the time he was writing the books, for sure.
Yeah, thinking, I could do that.
And we've gone over what they taught uh, and the difference between being speech and mind speech.
Them
So
being,
every day that Gurdjieff and Skridlov were there, supposedly they were trained in sacred music and sacred dance,
yeah.
and they stayed about 6 months.
So we can imagine like the dances from the movie and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now there's another mysterious brotherhood that Gurdjieff talks about, the Imistun Brotherhood. And this is supposedly goes back uh, many, many centuries, a long transmission, predating our own scattered sciences. The word probably comes from Armenian and is the root is wise or sage. Um, and the the cast of learned men that are in this group seem to be somewhere in the region of modern Greece, and they predate the flood, and they're all about astrology. And that's pretty much what we know about them. And there is no other reference to any group like this that anybody knows of.
So it's a real word, but
Yeah.
it's up in the air whether there was literally a brotherhood, as an institution kind of deal. And probably are noticing a pattern with that in terms of these organizations or institutions and whether there's any kind of corroboration from other sources. There appears to be a lack of that, which is, we can take that as just something of interest.
And now we get to the interesting part.
Mhm.
The Sarmoon Brotherhood, the ultimate secret society. And this is pretty much the end of the tale for meetings with remarkable men. This is where Gurdjieff finally ends up and learns all the heavy stuff. So, according to Gurdjieff's own account, the Sarmung, or as he writes it, Sarmung, because like I said, Armenian and G, uh, first appears in meetings with remarkable men, supposedly an ancient esoteric school founded in Babylon, later to have a chief monastery somewhere in the heart of Asia. Roughly a dozen days by pack animal from Bukhara. So you figure that out that the top speed of a loaded camel is usually no more than 30 kilometers a day. And multiply that by a dozen and draw a circle from Bukhara, and that tells you where you're going to land. Uh, Talking about Imhotep, we were just watching something about Imhotep last night.
Yeah, we watched oh my God, the 1930s version of The Mummy last night.
Yes.
That was fun. And one of the characters' names is Imhotep.
Though Imhotep was actually a very, very famous First Kingdom scholar. He was the guy
Yes.
who designed the Great Pyramid of Saqqara, the stepped pyramid, and was wildly knowledgeable about many, many things.
Mm.
And it could be a mispronunciation of that. We don't know. But it is, in fact, a real word meaning wise or sage in Armenian. We do know that because I looked it up. So, in his narrative, a Bukharan dervish, Bogga-Eddin, brokers Gurdjieff's entry under oath and blindfold to the monastery. He observes sacred dances and training devices for temple movements
Mm.
and all sorts of cool stuff. Gurdjieff's student J.G. Bennett popularized an etymology from the Persian Armenian sarman or sarmung with two connected senses. One is be, and the other is those who preserve the tradition. Hence the image of bees gathering and husbanding the honey of wisdom. And Bennett, located the Sarman Center near Nineveh in Assyria. Uh, but if it was there, it hasn't been for a long time. Now, a lot of traditionalist writers uh, further linked the Sarman to the perennial inner circle behind visible Sufi orders. Um, and they refer to the Khojagan, the masters of wisdom. Um, and there is something to that, I think.
We do know historically, as I understand it, there has been, I think still is called actually, a group called the Masters of Wisdom.
Yeah. Well, the masters of wisdom or the Khojagan was a name given to a group of dervishes, starting with Yusuf Hamadani,
Mhm.
who came up from Persia, from the city of Hamadan, and moved to Bukhara and various places around there, and founded a group of students, um, which were very, very important in the spiritual life of that area. And from them come the Naqshbandiya, the Yaseviya, the Kubresi, and several other minor orders that branched off from them. There's a little bit of argument as to what the main branch of that is. The Naqshbandis claim it and they're welcome to it because that means that the real main branch is not bothered by all these people. Um, I actually said that with a straight face. And the thing is that the teachings of this lineage are unique. They are not like you find anywhere else. And to me, that's interesting. And you could say it's obvious to me that the Sarmun, as Gurdjieff described it, never really existed. And lots of people have tried to find them, and they won't. But the Khwajagan are a real thing, and their story has not been finished. Their story is still being told in the world today. And
Their work is still being done in the
yes,
world
and
today.
that's the important thing.
Mhm.
And yes, they are associated with bees, interestingly enough. And anybody who knows the Quran knows that there is a chapter in it named after the bee and knows that if they read it, they will find some heavy duty esoteric stuff. Now, there's a lot of people who claim continuity with the Khwajagan or with the Sarmun, actually, most famous of which is Idris Shah. And he orchestrated um, a few books like The People of the Secret, The Teachers of Gurdjieff, and such like that try and point at him as the secret chief of the modern day Sarmun, and that the active monastery is somewhere in Afghanistan.
And
This was something
yeah,
that he could do in the early 1960s because almost nobody knew anything about Sufism. And as people became more educated, he looked more and more suspect.
we're speaking about Idris Shah
Yeah.
specifically. Yeah.
You know, there are other people that like to point at a Tibetan Buddhist complex as a possible historical referent. Uh,
Or the Samroon
yeah,
Brotherhood or monastery. Yeah.
yeah. And the fact of the matter is, if you look for the Sarmun Monastery, you will never find it, not even once. And anybody who tells you that they have found it is trying to sell you something. And there was silence. Now, scholars of various sorts have looked at this and they treat it like Blavatsky's Mahatmas, uh, as a place where you can claim uh, authority.
A secret connection,
Yeah.
special privilege in the sense of, proximity to these wise masters.
Yeah. And here's the thing. If you need to call upon the authority of the Saramun or the Khwajagan to justify yourself, you are definitely not in that school. What do you think that means? Let's examine that statement, O brethren and sisterin. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm going to start with one facetious and then get
Go
on to
for it.
something more serious. It reminds me of saying I can't remember who it was. Uh, Oscar Wilde, um, about I never be part of a group
I would
that
never join a group that would have me.
yes, that's that's it. On On a more serious level, I think it comes down to the wonderful idea of the self-freed man. That if you're not, if you don't, if you are not in a place where you can reasonably claim a significant level of autonomy, then you're not worth listening to.
That is absolutely and completely correct. I hate it when I can't argue with you about stuff. So think about that. This is something that my teacher told me on the day that he gave me my ijaza. Ijaza is permission to teach. He said, this piece of paper is pretty, but it means nothing. What allows you to teach is your own station and your ability to assume the hal, the state of a teacher. Nothing else is meaningful. The fact that you can, uh, you know, recite your lineage all the way back to the prophet means nothing. What means something is the station that you have arrived at that allows me to give you this piece of paper. And then he said some other things, but it reminded me of, for those of you who know Wael, you know that he's a martial arts teacher. And on the shirt for the Al-Arin Academy is uh, some beautiful Arabic Kufic script that says basically, here I am.
Yep.
And the meaning of that comes from the son-in-law of the Prophet, Ali ibn Abu Talib, who said in one of his sermons, when asked who you are, do not say, I am the son of this person and the grandson of this famous person, and they have done all of this, and my family is great. Just say, here I am, and stand on that. And to me, that's profound. So, there is no evidence of the Sarmoon Brotherhood anywhere, not in any books, not in any words before Gurdjieff's words. A lot of people have tried to co-opt the Sarmoon. Shah was big on that. He wanted everybody to think that the Sarmoon were real, and he was the head of it.
Or
Other Naqshbandis have done the same thing,
yeah, yeah.
and uh, there are some tests that you can run, and I'm not going to tell you what they are because uh, better off that you should just be completely skeptical. If we
Right.
said we are part of the Sarmoon, you should figure that we are teasing you because we're coming up on Halloween and it's a spooky story or something.
But people do get caught up in fantasy about these
Yes.
things.
And they loved the fantasy. That's what made Blavatsky so popular. It wasn't that she had any great, cool stuff to teach. It was that she had this great story about these hidden masters way up in the Himalayas.
And stories can be motivating, as we know. We love to share stories here with you to help inspire you and give some kind of, sometimes it helps to put things less in literal terms and more in terms of a narrative, right? But in this case, what we're speaking about is getting lost in a fantasy, letting the fantasy lead you instead of being, as Gurdjieff would say, a self-freed human being.
Have we committed enough heresy? I don't think so.
Do we have any thoughts or questions so far? Yes, Todd.
So was Idris Shah in fact a wanker?
Um, only Todd understands the meaning of that question. And my personal view is yes and no.
The serious one there being that if your teachings have to rely on beating somebody over the head with the authority of your lineage, then they probably can't stand on their own.
Probably not. And that would make him a wanker. And no, because he did provide the service of collecting up a whole bunch of interesting Sufi stories and making them available to the West.
And sort of what's the word, localizing them for an audience that otherwise may not have been
Yeah.
able to relate to them.
Yeah. And his brother was very cool. You know, he had a brother,
No.
Omar Ali Shah. Terrible writer, but had very, very interesting thoughts and conducted himself totally differently.
Mm. Yes, Ian.
Yeah, as you were telling, going through the story of basically meetings with remarkable men. I mean, my memory of that is weirdly episodic. That there's a few, because it was decades ago that I read it, but some of the tidbits that I sort of remember might be interesting. Am I correct in remembering that Bogga-Eddin also told Gurdjieff that he shouldn't be eating slowly, he should be.
Yes.
Yes. I think he was saying that he should be eating down chicken bones and all kinds of weird stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Gurdjieff was on the kick of over masticating his food.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the whole thing of beating him up over breath and eating.
And when it comes to the two brothers, I can't remember which name goes with which of them, but the one who was speaking from the mind, am I correct in remembering that he was supposed to be like 300 years old?
Yeah.
And the other one was
Supposedly.
supposedly 900 years old.
Yeah. Something like that. They were old
Yeah,
dudes.
yeah, I wasn't sure if I was hallucinating that.
Yeah. Well, we can be sure that somebody was hallucinating that. Maybe not you. I'm going to be in such trouble for this. I can see all of the Gurdjieffians piling onto the comments now going, "You heretic, burn
How
him."
dare you? So disrespectful.
Okay, we have, well, I mentioned one of Gurdjieff's true teachers, which was his dog. And if you want to know about that, read the book. It's in there. It's a fascinating chapter. But he has one other teacher, the secret teacher, to one that is not, well, I think there is one small mention of him in meetings with remarkable men, but you only find him really in Beelzebub's Tales. And that is the Mullah Nasar ad-Din, as he would say it. And I pulled out 10 quotes from Mullah Nasr ad-Din from Beelzebub's Tales, and that's what we're going to end this on. First quote: "The dog that barks loudest is usually furthest from the wolf."
Let's trade off. I'll
Wait
read
a
the second
second,
one.
we got to read the comment on
Oh,
that.
the commentary. Yes,
Yeah,
please.
which is bluster does not equal courage. Watch for distance between words and stakes.
Mhm.
And anybody who spent any time on the internet should know this one.
Yes. Number 2. When a fool finds a mirror, he combs the air. This is to say, vanity feeds on reflections, not reality.
Yep. Number 3, if your hat is borrowed, don't tip it like a pasha, which means status on loan isn't status. Stop peacocking with what isn't yours. And this is really important for pretty much every teacher that exists.
Mm-hmm.
Not me, I would never do that.
Yeah, never. That's not your thing.
No, it
No.
actually isn't, but
No.
I may have done it once
In younger days.
in my younger days, but then I had to listen to explanations from my sheikh about how that was incredibly stupid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You don't want to do that more than once.
Yeah.
Number
Number
4,
4. A man who chases 2 hares goes home hungry and swears the forest is empty. Mm. So, when we are trying to apply our efforts, we may come to notice, hopefully, eventually, that scattering our energy breeds failure. And then rationalization. We try to explain it. We try to come up with excuses and reasons, real or unreal, why things have turned out unsuccessfully.
yep. Number 5 is on market day, every crow is a nightingale. And that basically means hype and crowd mood make anything sound beautiful. Verify.
Mm. Number 6, we use this one a lot. Tie your camel first, then trust in providence, which is to say, piety without practical preparation is self-deception. And this is a big one because it means that we have to put in our share of the effort. We meet God halfway, as we like to say. You're a participant in your own reality. You're not just watching it like a movie.
Yep. Number 7, and of course, remember number 6 goes all the way back to the prophet.
Yeah. Number 7, Mushtaq.
With a full stomach, philosophy is easy. With a bildew, truth is rare. And that means convenient convictions change when money, time, and pressure enter.
We're seeing a lot of that these days, aren't we?
Yep.
Number 8. The tongue runs faster than the legs. So we can do a lot of talking, make a lot of commitments, oversell it, promise less, do more. Under promise, over deliver.
Number 9. When the lamp is low, even a mouse looks like a lion. Low attention magnifies fears. Strengthen your presence.
10. If you must sit on a stove, do not preach to kettles about coolness. So this is about hypocrisy. We tend to advise others against what we're actively doing right now.
Number 11. One who never doubts always buys the same snake in a new basket, which means gullibility repeats patterns with fresh packaging.
12. Better a small truth that bites than a big lie that kisses. So sometimes truth cuts right through. Short, sharp reality is kinder than flattering illusion, leading people on, that kind of thing.
Yeah. 13. The quicker the bow, the emptier the quiver. Hurry burns resources. Pace according to the real aim.
13. I like this one.
Yeah, this is one of my faves too.
A borrowed beard won't make you a dervish. So we all know this, I hope, by now. Imitation of the external stuff, wearing the garb, doing all the going through the motions, holding the prayer beads, whatever. All of that is no replacement whatsoever for actually doing the inner work.
Yeah. And we have seen this. I'm minded of one sheikh who was around many years ago. Um, he would initiate people into his tariqah, and then they would start dressing like him. Big turbans, 19th century Turkish clothing. And then when they would start speaking like him, people grew up in Yonkers were speaking with Turkish accents. It was like, what?
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
I want to touch base with our new guy here. You said, sorry, didn't get that. Did you not get one of the sayings that would it be helpful for us to try and explain it further?
Yes, please. The mouse thing. Thank you.
Which one?
The mouse and say something. The mouse. It looked like a tiger. I think that's the ninth point.
Oh, yes. When the lamp is low, even a mouse looks like a lion. So it means when your focus is not very good, you see something scampering over in the corner like a little mouse, you can project it as a lion. Does that make more sense now? I think I'm just not enunciating well.
No, I'm sorry. I'm not getting the sense of what does that mean. I understand the meaning, the literal meaning of it. Like if you are projecting a light on a small thing with a particular angle, it gives a larger picture on the wall.
Yeah, but it's
But how?
if the
Yeah.
lamp is low, think of an oil lamp that's almost out of oil. So the flame is flickering, it's not giving out much light. Then you see the shadows and they can be distorted. And this is an analogy to your own attention. When your attention is sharp and you have a lot of energy to give to your attention, you can see things as they are. But when your attention has tired out and the fuel is almost gone, it is hard to see the real. That's what it's saying. I hope that makes a little bit more sense.
I'm sorry. Not getting it. Like what in real life, or what does it mean in terms of life, or what are we trying to say with that? How and what does it mean in terms of situations or life situations?
Oh,
Is
that's
that what?
simple. What it means is pay real attention. Don't allow yourself to be fooled by the shadows. See what really is.
Hmm.
That's what it means.
I'm trying to think of like a everyday example. Let's see. Of course, I'm thinking of metaphors, right? Like making a mountain out of a molehill, but no.
I, I seem to remember something from one of the Hindi scriptures, probably the Upanishads, but I can't be sure. Or it could even be Buddhist, where it's about mistaking a twig for a snake.
I was just thinking of that very
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. And I actually experienced that in real time.
Hmm.
Walking down a trail back in New Mexico. It's dusk. The light is going down. I see something 10, 15 feet ahead of me, and it looks like a snake. And I'm looking at it and I'm going, is that a rattler? So I pick up a pebble and throw it. Nothing happens. I throw a few pebbles. It just lays there. Finally, I creep up on it. And then once I get to a place where I can clearly see it, I realize it's a stick. And my mind created the snake out of the shadows that I could see.
Yeah. And your body probably reacted accordingly.
Yes,
Hmm.
there was the whole.
Yeah, the fear response.
Okay, thank you so very much. Yeah.
Okay. Then we have one last one.
Oh.
Yes, we have one last one. All
If
right.
the ladder is on the wrong wall, climbing skill is only a joke, which is method without right aim is wasted effort. And there you have it. Words from Gurdjieff's real teacher.
Yes, James.
I was still thinking of this mistaking a rope for a snake. Is the implication not just that if you don't have enough attention, you won't see things clearly, but also if you don't have enough attention, if you're not awake enough, you tend to see things fearfully, perhaps?
Could be. You
Just wanted that thought.
definitely will tend to see things according to your own projections.
Yeah.
And, in the desert at dusk, that's the time when snakes come out because they're looking for that perfect temperature when it's not too hot, not too cold, and they can cruise around and eat kangaroo rats and do whatever it is that snakes do. So you make an assumption that, oh, that must be what it is. If it was noon, I would not look for a snake in the middle of the trail. I would look for it in a shadow somewhere on the side of the trail.
Yep. Todd says he's quoting the Lin Yu Tang. When the sun when the sun is setting, small men cast long shadows.
American politics.
Yes,
Ugh,
in a nutshell.
brutal.
I'm not saying Australia's any better, by the way, but we're on a similar path, just you guys are further down it. That's all.
America leads the way.
Oh, Todd. Oh, yep. All right, any other thoughts?
Yeah, because that's basically it.
Yeah,
We've gone
so
over the teachers of Gurdjieff according to Gurdjieff, except for the dog.
I will just make one comment about the difference between, well, as much as I enjoyed and learned a lot from Idris Shah's books with the Nasruddin stories, I found it quite a shock to read Gurdjieff's version of Nasr-Eddin. It comes across as quite different.
Yeah, Shaw just collected up a bunch of folk tales and made up some, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, and I found some of the later ones to be pretty pathetic.
So there we have it. This whole thing was basically just to put the part in about the Sarmoon Brotherhood. And that was so that I can vex people who believe things that they shouldn't believe and put on airs that they shouldn't put on.
Burst bubbles and shatter notions.
Yep. All that stuff.
Always a good time.
But at the same time, being able to say that which cast the shadow of the Sarmoon Brotherhood is something real.
Yeah.
But you're not going to find it anywhere in Afghanistan right now. All them cats split.
And it also says to me that, we're all standing on the shoulders of those who came before us, Gurdjieff
Yeah.
included.
And in my kinder moments, I'm pretty sure that Gurdjieff crafted the stories in the way that he did to keep the people who taught him from being bothered by idiots.
Well, what do you think? Are we all ready to head to dinner or start our day or whatever, Mushtaq?
I'm ready.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening, everyone. And hopefully you found something interesting, maybe even edifying in this, maybe even challenging. But we're always up for seeing your comments. So feel free. Yes. And we definitely appreciate that you guys show up every week. So thank you so much for that. And we'll be here next week. Same time, same place. So we can wave to each other, wave to everybody watching on the replay.
Yes, Noor,
Yes.
you might want to mention about the time change next week.
Oh, thank you so much, Ian. Is that happening this upcoming week?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's going to be the 1st of November. So next week, what do we say? Fall back. So I
Yes,
think
fall
we're
back.
going to be, it's going to be what? The equivalent of, oh geez. We'll have to work it out. But for those of you who are on our email list or on our Facebook group, we will be switching things up accordingly, but I recommend using a website like Date and Time to do a time conversion. We are going to be on standard time. So you're going to look up 6:30 p.m.
Pacific
Pacific
Standard.
Standard Time for our start time next week.
Yeah, from a US perspective, it really only affects foreigners.
That's right.
Well, I think there's like one state that doesn't do the time shift.
There's a
And
couple, but Arizona
yeah,
doesn't do time change.
which has got to be a little wacky for them.
Oh, it's doubly wacky because
Yeah.
if you are driving across Arizona, the time doesn't change until you get to the Navajo reservation.
Mm.
Then the time changes, even though you're in Arizona. Then you get to the middle of the Navajo reservation and you get to the Hopi reservation and the time changes again.
Huh.
Then you get out of the Hopi reservation back into the Navajo res and the time changes again. And by the time you're done and you get to New Mexico, you have no idea what time it is.
Anyways, so not a problem.
It's amazing what little strange tidbits one can learn from these chats.
It's true. All right, folks. Everybody wave
Yeah.
goodbye.
Bye, everybody. Take
And
Thank
care.
you so very much.